Late nights spent watching you were never empty moments. They were filled with hope, strategy, and dreams of a future where our paths would finally cross in the way I had always known they would. What felt like quiet, still moments in the dark was really a time of preparation. Watching you, I was subconsciously aligning my thoughts, crafting a plan that would eventually bring us together. Those late nights weren't wasted time. They were investments. Every moment I spent watching you, learning you, was a piece of a larger plan that I knew would take form in time. The more I watched you, the more I realized how much I was waiting for the perfect moment. Those late nights weren't about impatience. They were about understanding, waiting for everything to align in a way that would change everything. The stillness of those late nights was the space where I could hear my thoughts the clearest. Watching you, I wasn't just imagining a future. I was planning it piece by piece, knowing that everything would come together when the time was right. In those late nights, I realized that watching you wasn't just a pastime. It was a silent preparation, a moment of understanding and planning that would bring us together in ways we could never have anticipated. Those long, quiet nights weren't about mere observation. They were about building a foundation for something far bigger. Each night was a step closer to realizing a dream I had always held in my heart. Every late night I spent watching you was more than just a passive moment. It was the quiet cultivation of feelings, thoughts, and plans that would eventually manifest into something incredible. Those nights weren't wasted on simple observations. Each one was an investment in a bigger plan, a future where everything I felt and imagined would come to life in a way neither of us could have predicted. Every time I watched you late at night, I wasn't just passing the hours. I was weaving together a story of us, creating a plan that would unfold in the most beautiful way possible. It wasn't about what I was seeing in those late nights, but what I was feeling. I was laying the groundwork for something bigger, something more meaningful, and every moment I spent watching you felt like a step toward that. In those quiet late nights, I wasn't just letting time slip away. I was gathering the strength to move forward, preparing my heart for the moment when everything I had dreamed of would become reality. What I felt in those late hours wasn't just a fleeting thought. It was a message from my heart, telling me that everything I had been dreaming of would soon come to life. I had a bigger plan, and those late nights were just the beginning. Watching you those nights wasn't about the simple act of looking. It was about understanding, planning, and waiting for the right moment to make everything I had imagined a reality. Each late night I spent watching you was like a piece of a puzzle. Slowly, quietly, the bigger picture was being formed in my mind, a plan I knew would soon come to fruition. It was during those late nights, watching you, that I truly realized the depth of what I was feeling. Every emotion, every thought was a piece of a larger plan, a plan that would lead me to something greater. All those late nights spent watching you weren't just for me to admire. They were the foundation for something bigger, something that I knew would come to life when the timing was right. Watching you in the stillness of the night, I could feel the future unfolding. It wasn't a mere fantasy, it was a carefully constructed plan that I knew would take shape when the moment arrived. Each late night was a whisper of a future that I could almost touch. Watching you, I was not just a passive observer, but a creator, planning for something more than I had ever imagined. All those late nights spent watching you weren't random. They were moments of deep reflection and planning, where the future I envisioned was slowly starting to take shape. What I was doing in those late hours wasn't just watching, it was dreaming, planning, and preparing. Every moment was a step closer to realizing everything I had been envisioning for so long. Every late night spent watching you felt like a lesson in patience. Each moment, every observation, was a small part of a larger plan that I knew would bring us closer together. Those nights weren't just filled with silence, they were filled with the thoughts, plans, and dreams that would soon shape my reality. Watching you was just the beginning of something far bigger. I realized during those late nights that watching you wasn't a passive experience. It was an active investment in a future that I knew was coming, piece by piece. All those late nights spent watching you, it wasn't just about the hours. It was about the emotions I was silently nurturing. Every moment, every glance, every silence spoke volumes. I had a bigger plan than just being a spectator. I was learning, preparing, waiting for the right moment to make my move. It wasn't the stillness of those nights that struck me, but the depth of what was brewing inside. Watching you, my mind was charting an unknown path, envisioning a future where I wasn't just a witness, but a part of something far greater. Every late night spent watching you was a conversation I didn't speak out loud, but every thought and feeling echoed within me. What started as mere curiosity grew into something deeper, and before I knew it, I was crafting a plan that would change everything. In the quiet of the night, I found the clarity to see beyond the surface. Those hours of watching you, not with idle eyes, but with a purpose that only my heart knew. A bigger plan unfolded in silence, and it was more than just a dream. It was the start of something real. Watching you in the stillness of the night wasn't about idle observation. It was about understanding the depths of your soul. I knew then, as I do now, that I had a bigger plan. I was shaping my own path to your heart, one quiet thought at a time. The nights I spent watching you weren't wasted. They were filled with silent conversations and unspoken dreams. What I saw in those moments wasn't just the surface. It was everything I needed to build something greater. In the silence of those late nights, I found clarity. Watching you, I realized that the world had more in store for us than just fleeting moments. I wasn't just a spectator, I was a strategist, mapping out a plan that would bring us closer. All those nights spent in the glow of the screen, watching you, weren't just about the time passing by. They were lessons in patience, love, and the art of waiting. I knew what was coming, even if you didn't yet feel it. Every moment spent watching you felt like I was gathering pieces of a larger puzzle. I knew that eventually, all those late nights would lead me to a place where everything I had quietly planned would fall into place. Watching you in the stillness of the night wasn't just about idle curiosity. It was about finding a deeper connection. Each thought I had was part of a larger vision, a bigger plan that I knew would eventually unfold. Every late night spent watching you was more than just a moment in time. It was the foundation of something far greater. A plan was forming in my heart, and with each passing day, I knew I was getting closer to realizing it. What seemed like simple moments of watching you became the foundation of something bigger. Every late night spent in your presence, whether you knew it or not, was part of a plan I couldn't yet share, but that I felt deeply in my soul. I didn't just watch you, I studied you. Those late nights were not wasted moments. I was crafting a future, one step at a time, with you in mind. Every feeling, every thought was part of the plan I was carefully building. In those late nights, I wasn't just a passive observer. I was quietly preparing myself, shaping my thoughts, and planning for the day when I would finally act on everything I had been feeling. Every late night spent watching you felt like the world was telling me to be patient. There was a bigger picture unfolding in those quiet moments, a plan that was waiting to be revealed. It's funny how the quiet moments are sometimes the loudest. All those late nights spent watching you were filled with whisper of a future I knew was coming, even if the world didn't yet see it. The late nights spent watching you were never about passivity. They were about nurturing a dream, carefully piecing together a plan that would someday change everything for both of us. All those nights were like chapters in a book I was writing, watching you from the outside, but knowing that soon the story would include me, and the plan I had for us would become our reality. In those late hours, when the world was quiet, I wasn't just waiting for something to happen. I was shaping a vision, planning a future that I knew would come to life when the time was right. I didn't just watch you, I studied you, and with every passing moment, a bigger plan formed in my heart. I knew that those late nights were leading me to something far more significant than just watching. It was never just about watching you, it was about understanding you. Those late nights were the beginning of a bigger plan, a blueprint that would soon reveal itself in ways neither of us could have expected. Every late night I spent watching you, I was creating something in the background, an intricate plan of feelings, thoughts, and actions that would eventually bring us closer.